Well, hey there, guys. Greetings and salutations. Welcome back to the channel for this installment of Open Mic, the show where the mic is open, the floor is yours. What do you want to talk about? That is what we are here to discuss today, guys. And I'm awfully glad that you're joining me. My name is, of course, John Campea. Good to have you guys here. And of course, Open Mic is just more of a casual, laid back, let's just hang out and talk about movies kind of show, right? A little less formal than the main John Campea Show. And we're just basically take your comments and questions. Now, there's two different ways you can get a comment or a question read on Open Mic. The first way is that you can use the tip link. You'll find a link for it down in the description below, but you can use that anytime, 24 hours a day. If it's Tuesday at 2 a.m. in the morning and an idea for a question hits you, go ahead and send it in, and you can find our tip link at streamelements.com/John Campea/tip. And you send them in, and then we get around to it probably on our next show. Or the other way is if you are watching live, you can use the super chat feature in the live chat and send it out on in. I will let you know that the super chats are already almost full. So if you've got a comment or question you want to send in, go ahead and do that soon. And I'll be turning off the super chats pretty soon. But anyway, before we get going, good to see everybody here. Doom, Exley, The Richard, Crystal, Normic, Adrian, Hennock, George Harris, everybody here. Good to have you guys here. So I want to kind of talk about this first. You know, with the X-Men coming up, and, well, we got X-Men 97 on TV right now. And then, of course, we've got the X-Men coming to the MCU finally, right? We're going to get Wolverine in the Deadpool movie. A question that I've been asked a number of times, both historically, but especially in the last month or so, I've been asked a number of times if I think when they do launch the X-Men, do I think they will do the X-Men? Let me rephrase. Do I think they could do the X-Men starting off without Wolverine? Could you start off X-Men without Wolverine? It's an interesting question because there are a lot of different X-Men characters, right? There's a lot of characters out there in the X-Men universe, and the team can only be so big when you start it off. Granted, but can you start it off without the old knucklehead? All right. Since we're asking, can they, as opposed to say, will they? The answer to can they is yes, they could. They absolutely could. Will they is another question though, right? Can asks the question of possibilities. Will they ask a definitive question? So let me start out. Let's address the will they, because can they? The answer is yes. Of course they can. They can. But will they? So in addressing the will they question, I want us to first look at the reasons why you might believe, or you could believe, that they will. All right. The most obvious thing to start off with in defending the position that they will start the X-Men without Wolverine is simply this. The original X-Men never had Wolverine. I actually think there are a lot of people who don't realize, I mean, Wolverine is just so synonymous with the X-Men. As a matter of fact, what do they say in the new Deadpool trailer? Deadpool says, "You were an X-Man. You were the X-Man," right? But the reality is, a lot of people forget that the X-Men started without Wolverine. They were Cyclops, Jean Grey, Angel, Beast, and Iceman. That was the original 5 X-Men. And of course, Professor Charles Xavier was in there too. I mean, so if you wanted to make a good argument about why they won't start with Wolverine being the X-Men, if you wanted to defend that position, a very good, strong starting case is Wolverine was never part of the original X-Men. As a matter of fact, Wolverine didn't come around till quite a while later. So that's one argument you could make about that. The other argument you could make about, if you wanted to make the argument that they won't start with Wolverine, is not only was he not a part of the original X-Men, but the other thing to keep in mind too is what's currently on TV? X-Men 97, right? But John, Wolverine is in X-Men 97. Yeah, he is. But let me ask you this. Honestly, has Wolverine been an important part of X-Men 97? I would submit no. He hasn't been. I mean, in as much as any character in X-Men 97 has or has not been important, I mean, you can make an argument that everybody there is important. Sure. But actually just put it right. I mean, really, in X-Men 97, Wolverine is a side character. He is at best a supporting character in X-Men 97. If you wanted to make a third argument about why Wolverine won't be in the movie or in the original lineup of X-Men, is that it's time for them to focus on other characters. In as much as DC fans may say that one of the weaknesses of DC is that they rely too much on Batman. I don't agree with that, but that is an argument you'll hear some people make. It's that DC relies too much on Batman. There is also a point that gets raised a lot by people that why does everything X-Men related have to have Wolverine, right? So you could make, if you wanted to make the argument that the starting rotation of X-Men in the movies and the MCU won't include Wolverine, you could say, I think very validly, number one, Wolverine was never part of the original X-Men lineup. Number two, look at the current hit TV series X-Men 97. Wolverine is barely a side character in that. And number three, a lot of people make the argument that it's time for X-Men to kind of look and focus on other characters other than Wolverine. Now, I think those are all three very valid arguments to make. All right, I don't dismiss those. I don't discount those arguments. I think those are all very valid arguments to make. That being said, even though I think those are valid arguments, I still believe that when the X-Men launch in the Marvel Cinematic Universe, Wolverine will be there. For one very important reason. I did this morning just as a fun little exercise. I just Googled most popular X-Men characters. With the exception of one, I looked at about 7 or 8 results that came up. With the exception of one, I went through all of them. One of them listed Charles Xavier. But every single other list I found, and I think you know the answer to this, who is the most popular X-Men character? Everybody knows the answer to this. It's Wolverine. Or as Amir would say, it is Wolverine by a mile. It's Wolverine by a mile. He is, to quote Kid Mikkel, he is iconic. The Wolverine character is indisputably the most popular character they have. So let me ask you this. If you're now going to launch the X-Men in the MCU, something people have been waiting years and years and years for, are you going to start it without your most popular character? Do you really think that's what they're going to do? Possible. I'm not saying it's not possible. I'm not saying there aren't good arguments to not launch with them. Wasn't part of the originals. Isn't really a heavy part of X-Men 97. They focused a lot on Wolverine already. I get all that. But by a landslide, guys, does anybody in the live chat even dispute that if you ask the question, who's the most popular X-Man, that it is Wolverine by a mile? Whether he should be or shouldn't be is a completely different topic, but that he is, as a matter of fact, the most popular X-Man character out there. Nobody disputes that. So I pose the question again. Do you think Marvel, in launching this new X-Men line in the MCU that fans have been waiting forever for, do you actually think they start off without the single most popular X-Man? It's like doing an Avengers movie. Let's say Marvel hadn't made an Avengers movie yet. It's saying like doing an Avengers movie without Iron Man, Captain America, and Thor. I mean, that's just how popular Wolverine is. Can you imagine them trying to do an Avengers movie, assuming they hadn't made one yet? Okay, assuming they hadn't made an Avengers movie yet, they're going to make their first Avengers movie. Can you imagine it having not having Captain America, Iron Man and Thor. Inconceivable. In the words of Vincini. Inconceivable. You keep using that word. I do not think it means what you think it means. It's absolutely inconceivable to me. And by the way, see, then some people, going back to the third argument about why you maybe shouldn't have him there, it's time to focus on other characters. I would submit to you that you help your other characters get over more by having them with the most popular X-Man there is. Like, you'll have an easier time getting lesser appreciated X-Men characters over with the audience if you have them in a movie with the most popular X-Man character. It's an old trick that professional wrestling uses. And you just quick question, any of you guys in the live chat watch or used to watch professional wrestling like WWE, WCW, TNT, I don't care what it is. Any of you guys, AEW, any of you guys watch any professional wrestling? Michael King Daddy, Shaky Jake, a lot of people saying yes. Okay, so here's the thing. All of you guys in the live chat are saying yes, you've watched professional wrestling. You know this, right? You know this already. It's an old wrestling trick. If you want to get a new wrestler over with the audience, you either have them ally or tag team up with an established popular wrestler, or B, have them feud and start a rivalry with an established popular wrestler. That's what you did. You want to get going. This is going back. I mean, this is going back, guys. Okay, you ready for this? Ready to go into a time machine? If you want Mr. Wonderful Paul Orndorff to go over with the audience and really get cemented in with the audience, have him betray Hulk Hogan. You want Shawn Michaels? Well, this is I was going to say Shawn Michaels haven't betrayed Mario Jannetty, but he was already in the Rockers. He was already kind of popular. But like Kevin Owens, right? They brought Kevin Owens up back when they did with him, and they immediately put him into fireworks for some big, popular, established professional wrestlers, and all of a sudden his name became a marquee. It's an old wrestling trick. As Todd Kaepernick is pointing out in the live chat, where did it go? Yeah, it's called getting them over, right? So if you really want to work on raising the profile of a bunch of the other X-Men characters, you want to get them over, you put him in with the most popular X-Man, Wolverine. Now, I see some people in the live chat, and I agree, saying things like, it's time that Cyclops got some love. I agree, 100% agree. Cyclops was the most misused character in the original X-Men films. 100%, I agree with you in totality. I love the Scott Summers character. He definitely needs more love, but that doesn't mean you can't have Wolverine there for him to get love, right? You just got to give him a bit bigger of a role. You can't just have Cyclops there to be the straight man to funny parts with interactions between him and Wolverine. You got to actually have a on-screen partner like that. I mean, you want to get Cyclops over, have Wolverine there. Just make sure you don't overlook or overshadow or shut out Cyclops like the original X-Men films did to do that. But in order to get Cyclops some love, you don't have to have a movie without Wolverine. Not at all. So, can they do X-Men without starting with Wolverine? They can. Will they? Some good arguments. Not part of the originals. Not a main character in the X-Men 97. Time to focus on... Sure, so there are some good arguments, but I still believe at the end of the day, and I have no insider information, I could be wrong, and that's fine. I just don't see them. Because honestly, guys, let me ask you guys in the live chat, honestly, if it's your money, all right, and I want you to think about this for a second seriously. If it's your money and you're paying for this X-Men movie you're going to do, right? You're financing it. It's your ass. It's your money. It's your well-being. It's your financial security on the line. And you're paying for it. And one of your underlings comes to you and says, sir or ma'am, should we do this movie without Wolverine? Are you honestly going to say, yeah, let's do this movie without Wolverine? If this is your money? Hell no. Neither would I. Hell no. Like, seeking goodwill is saying a very good sounding thing. I make sure it's a good script first, but yes, guess what? Good script doesn't necessarily get asses in the seats. Like, yes, you want a good script. Absolutely, you do. But there have been a lot of great movies that nobody went to go see. If it's your money, you're saying put Wolverine in the movie. So am I. 100% I am. So we'll see, man. We'll see. I just think it would be a marketing nightmare if they didn't. Then, of course, that brings up the question, who do you get to play Wolverine? Who can possibly fill the boots of Hugh Jackman? All that kind of stuff. Yes, but I completely believe, while there are some good arguments against it, and it's certainly possible they don't, I still believe they will have Wolverine as a part of the X-Men. And, again, a lot of people have been writing in and asking me that question lately, and I'm sure people still will, but that's kind of how I think about it. And whether it does or doesn't, we'll find out. So, question is for you guys. What do you think? Ultimately, at the end of the day, and remember, I'm not asking should they do it with or without Wolverine. I'm asking you directly, do you think they will have Wolverine in the starting X-Men lineup, or at least in the first movie? Because you can say in the first X-Men movie, Wolverine wasn't part of the starting lineup. He became a part of the lineup in the movie. Either way, will Wolverine be in that very first X-Men movie? Yes or no? What do you think? Jump down to the comments below and let me know your thoughts. All right. With that down, guys, let's get to the reason we're all here, shall we? Which is taking your questions. So we're going to start off with the people who sent in questions using the tip link. And we're going to start off with Jay Newby, who writes, I love Tropic Thunder. You and me both, man. But my favorite thing about it isn't a scene. It's the audio commentary. Robert Downey Jr. literally doesn't break character until the credits, and when he does, it's as Kirk Lazarus. He stays true to his character line, and I love it. You know what? I have never seen the Tropic Thunder commentary. I've seen Tropic Thunder like 5 times. I love that movie. By the way, a lot of people say you couldn't do that movie today. 100% yes, you could. 100% you still could. You know why? Because it was a joke and people understood the joke, and the joke was the ridiculousness of it. And people ask me today, they couldn't do The Office today. 100% they could do The Office today. 100%. The original Office with all the jokes they told could be done today. If the Tom Brady roast proved anything, it's that if you know that the people making the joke have the right heart about it, and they're telling it from with the right motivations and all that kind of stuff, you can make any joke you want and get away with it. So 100% they could do that today. And now, Jay Newby, I'm going to have to go find this commentary track because I want to watch that. I want to see that. That's great. Thanks for putting that on my radar. All right. Next up, we've got Tack, who writes, is there a chance we get a Paramount Sonic animated movie in the vein of Mutant Mayhem / Transformers 1 after the trilogy is done? I think they will take an extended break before Sonic 4 like MCU Spidey is doing, and it be a fun way to fill the gap. I don't think so. And I'm not rock solid on that, but I don't think so. And I'll tell you why I don't think so is because I think I don't know that Sonic would have had the success it's having if it wasn't live action. I think making it live action gives it a novelty with the video game character and stuff that I don't think would have been there. I think taking it back to animated, I honestly don't think, and I could be wrong, but I don't think taking it, once it's already been in live action and taking it back to animated, I don't know that it would pick up as well as maybe some other properties that have done the same thing. I just don't know that it would. I think right now Sonic is working, like you're watching Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles, and like a lot of people think this would work better as an animated thing. But with Sonic, I think it works great the way they're doing it. So eventually, someday, will there be a Sonic animated movie? Eventually, someday, sure. But like anytime soon, like anytime in the next 10 years, like a theatrically released Sonic animated movie, I'm going to guess no. And I'm going to guess no, but I don't like I said, I wouldn't even put that. I wouldn't put any money on that. I wouldn't put any money on that at all. But my guess would be no. My guess would be no. All right. Next up. Thanks, Tack. By the way, I do love those Sonic movies. Sam Fisher writes, 1 of 2. My dream for the MCU's X-Men was that they would do the original 5 for X-Men 1 movie. Then the original 5 would go missing and Charles would need to recruit the giant-size X-Men for X-Men 2, then bring in characters like Rogue, Gambit, and Shadowcat. Here's why I don't know that would work. You can't spend the first movie getting the audience invested in a bunch of characters and then say, hey guys, come on back for the next movie. All the characters you love won't be here this time, but we got a new bunch of characters. I don't think that works. They tried that with Iron Eagle. Any of you guys, yes or no in the live chat? Any of you guys old enough to remember Iron Eagle? With the late, great Louis Gossett Jr., where the first Iron Eagle is about this kid and Louis Gossett Jr. is helping him. And then at the very beginning of Iron Eagle 2, they kill that kid, like right at the start. And then the movie's just about Louis Gossett Jr. Look what happened to Black Panther. Like, they just took out one of the characters. Granted, it was your main lead character with the passing of Chadwick Boseman. And while Black Panther 2 was absolutely a big financial success, making over $800 million, it took a huge dip, right? If you're trying to build a franchise, you make an X-Men movie with a lineup, and then you do the sequel, but, we've taken all the characters you loved in that first one. They're all gone. Bye-bye. We're going to introduce you a whole bunch of new characters. I don't know that works. Now, they could start with the original 5, but I think if they were to do that, they would start with the original 5, maybe kill off 1, and then start to build in and add new X-Men as you go, but not like take the whole team, your whole cast for your first movie, take them all away and replace them with a completely different cast. I don't know that works. I really don't know if that works, but who knows? Never know, man. All right. Thanks for that, Sam. Oh, Sam also, right, there was a part 2 to this. X-Men 3, but they won't do that. Characters like Logan, really, it's mostly Logan and maybe Storm are too popular to leave out of the first movie, and I kind of hate that. Logan's popularity ruined his character, in my opinion. I disagree. I completely disagree with that. It's like a song being overplayed. Again, I completely disagree. If you got a great character, let me ask, here's the question I have for you. How many episodes of Breaking Bad was there? Does anybody know? Anybody in the live chat know how many episodes there were of Breaking Bad? I'll just see if anybody knows off the top of the head. I don't know. I'm going to guess 35, 40 episodes. Okay. Unless somebody gives me an actual number, I'm going to go say 40 episodes. Let's say 40. Oh, Casinema is saying 62. Casinema and Exley are the first ones in there, and they're saying 62. Okay. So that means 62 times you went to your TV, turned it on, sat down, and watched Heisenberg for an hour or so, right? And then you did it again, and then you did it again, and then they did it again. And then they did it again, and then they did it again, and then they did it again, and then again, and then again, and again, and again, and again, and again, and again. Did that overplay him? No. If you've got a great character, and the character is working, no. Seeing him in 9 movies does not mean an overplayed song at all. Hell, I watched 15 seasons of Supernatural with the Winchester boys. That's like what? Almost 300 episodes? Almost 300 episodes. I went back for 15 years. As long as the characters are good and you're enjoying the characters and they're doing fun things with the characters, then it's not bad. And Wolverine on the big screen, what, 9 times? Yeah, I think 9, maybe 10. I don't know. But yeah, I don't think so. I disagree with you on that one, my man. I disagree with you on that one. All right. Next up, C. Todd says, hey, John and crew, longtime fan, back to the AMC days. Thank you so much for that, Todd. But first time writer. Oh, thanks for writing in, man. Where has J.J. Abrams been? He was a hot name for a few years ago. Do you think reactions to Rise of Skywalker and his canceled Superman project has thrown him for a loop? Thanks. Well, every director, producer, whatever has projects canceled. That's one thing. However, I think the Star Wars thing was a pretty heavy blow. And look, for the record, these two statements are true. I like J.J. Abrams. Rise of Skywalker was an abortion of a film. Those are not opposite statements. They are both true. I like J.J. Abrams, and The Rise of Skywalker I thought was an absolute train wreck. And then he had this development deal with, I think it was with Warner Brothers. He had this development deal, and then they didn't like anything that they were pitching. And then I think that deal got thrown out and all that kind of stuff. Listen, I like J.J. Abrams as a director. I do. I think he's an even better producer, but I like J.J. Abrams as a director. But I think between the Warner Brothers deal falling apart, the Star Wars upheaval and all that kind of stuff. Yeah. So, I mean, if I run over right now and I look up, let's see, what happens if I look up J.J. Abrams, IMDb. See what he's got listed right now. What does he got? Does he got anything on the old docket at the moment? As a director, he's got two things listed as upcoming. Demi-Monde. Oh, I've heard of this one, Demi-Monde. But what was that? It's a show of some kind. I remember we talked about it before, so he's got that. And he's also working on a television series called Duster right now. That's what I know of. As a producer, right now, JJ, where is he as a producer? Oh, he's a producer on that Blue Angel. I know Ray is super excited about that Blue Angels thing coming to IMAX. He's executive producer on a TV series called Presumed Innocent. He's an executive producer of that upcoming Batman, The Caped Crusader. I forgot about that. He's a producer on the upcoming Cloverfield sequel, and a number of other things, including one called A Woman of No Importance, which I remember we've talked about that one before too. So everything he's got coming up right now is as a producer. But I think he'll be back in the director's chair again. But yeah, I think The Rise of Skywalker, like all the drama surrounding it, and then even though the film made $1 billion, let's not forget that movie made $1 billion. $1 billion. So let's not forget that. But it was a terrible movie in my personal opinion. And I think the response to it kind of threw him for a loop, and maybe he's going to stay out of the director's chair for a while. But I'm not going to lie to you. As much as I hated that movie, I am looking forward to when he does come back and direct again. I think he's a pretty decent director. I really do. All right. Next up. We've got Logan Vaughn who writes, I recently became aware of NeoPixel lightsabers from NeoSabers. I want one so bad, but they're like $100 minimum. My ideal saber is $600. Walk me off this cliff. I'm not familiar with them, but I mean, now I'm going to have to go look them up when the show is over, because you might know I've got a bit of an affinity for lightsabers. So I'm going to have to go check that one out. Thanks for letting me know about it, Logan. All right. Next up, Will writes, hey, John, hope you're well. I am well, thank you. How likely is it we see Yoda in The Acolyte, do you think? I think pretty good. I struggle to see how they do a show about the Jedi in this time period without him having a somewhat significant role to play. Thanks for all the work you guys do. Well, I mean, that all depends. I cannot remember. In the High Republic era, Yoda isn't on the Jedi Council yet, is he? Correct me if I'm wrong in the live chat. In the live chat, help me out here for any of you guys remember. In the High Republic era, is Yoda already on the Jedi Council? I have it in my head that he's not, but I might be wrong. Oh no, Michael Gonzalez is saying that he is. Okay. He is, and he stepped down. All right. So look, even if it wasn't for the fact that Lucasfilm is addicted to playing member berries in all their stuff. Oh, look, guys, it's R2-D2. This movie had nothing to do with R2-D2. I know, but look, it's R2-D2. Where they are constantly making sure they put in recognizable faces and even what are supposed to be news stories. Even if that wasn't the case, yeah, I think there's a very, very, very good chance that Yoda's in it. I mean, I don't think a significant role in it, but I think we'll definitely, I feel pretty good that we'll probably see Yoda in it at any rate. I sure hope that show is good because I haven't liked the trailers, but I've been very, very excited for The Acolyte. They got a great showrunner involved with it. I'm going to keep my fingers crossed that it's good. I just haven't liked the trailers so far. That's all. All right. Next up, we got Anonymous who writes, by the way, guys, just a reminder, if you do use the tip link, don't forget to fill in the name field, because if you forget to fill in that field, it'll just automatically put you as anonymous. And if you want to be anonymous, that's totally fine. I just want to make sure that if you're like sending in a question for us to address and you're supporting the channel, I just want to make sure you get a shout out. So unless you intentionally want to be anonymous, make sure you fill out that name field. Anyway, hey, John, I miss the old segments on your show when you preview the next month movies or summer preview, what's on streaming, also the new segment in other news. I like segments when you talk about multiple news or movies in short time. So yeah, like things like all those other things are gone. I mean, we'll do a month's preview every once in a while, but what's coming up in streaming and all that kind of stuff, that's when I had other staff that would research that and all that kind of stuff. Those things are gone. They're not coming back. But in other news is absolutely still a part of our show. Now, you guys know we recently just went through a big move. We moved out of the one studio into another studio, and we still don't have everything. We don't have all the screws tightened and all the, seals sealed and, all the wires properly. We still don't have everything completely right yet in here. We're getting very, very close though. So we've made it a priority to get everything 100% locked down in here. And then once we do, we're going to start up in other news again. And that's going to start next week. We feel like we've gotten to the place right now where everything's good. We've got everything the way we want it to be at the moment. And so we are going to start in other news again next week. The other things, unfortunately, no. Except for the odd month, we'll do a preview of an upcoming month of what's coming out in theaters. But in other news is absolutely going to still be a part of the show. All right. Next up, we are at Garden Variety Vagabond, who writes, to right a wrong, after weeks of getting an error trying to watch Fallout, I binged it all in one day. Nice. I loved it. I must admit that I haven't seen Ella Purnell in anything but Miss Peregrines. I forgot about this. Never seen Yellow Jackets. I think she was great. She was great in it. I really liked it. Now, do I think Fallout is on the same level as House of the Dragon, Shogun, Andor, Last of Us? No, I don't. I don't think it's on the same level, but I think it's really good. And I thoroughly enjoyed Fallout. Like I thought it was a really, really good time. The days of anything video game related coming out automatically being crap are gone. Remember, for decades, any video game property coming out as a TV show or as a movie, automatically you can just assume it's crap. But those days are behind us now. And Fallout is a really good example of that. I thoroughly enjoyed Fallout. I thought she was really good in the series. I can't wait for them to come back with season 2, to be honest with you. All right. Next up, we've got Garden Variety Vagabond again writes, match for the quirkiness of Lucy's role. Oh, you're still on that. Do you think we will see more of her in upcoming projects? Oh, absolutely. Yeah. Hollywood loves a hot name. So yes, we'll see her more. Saw she won many coveted awards such as Best Actress at the Fargo Film Festival. Gotta live IMDb giving me the data. Gotta live IMDb. Anyway, also, is there a timeline for season 2? I've heard nothing about a timeline for season 2, to be honest with you. But since it's streaming, I'm going to guess it's at least 2 years away, which sucks. Part of the thing that sucks about the streaming era, and it really does suck, but I'm going to guess it's probably like 2 years away. All right. Next up, we've got Moda Awesome who writes, I know it's all subjective, but X-Men 97 is the best Marvel Disney Plus content in my opinion. It is not. Anyway, I know you'll probably say WandaVision. It's absolutely WandaVision. 100% is WandaVision. By the way, what's the better TV miniseries, Chernobyl or Shogun? Shogun, although Chernobyl is magnificent. Thanks and bring on the filthy. See, here's the thing. We've had this conversation before. But I think it's important to kind of point out X-Men 97 is great and I'm enjoying it like thoroughly. Like I'm staying up till midnight for when it drops so I can watch it right away. Like that's a sign that I'm really enjoying something. But it's also great for what it is, which is a Twitter attention span, rapid fire animated show. And it's for a Twitter attention span, rapid fire animated show. It's fantastic. I'm loving it. But you know, Rob and I had this discussion and he agreed that if you took X-Men 97 and shot for shot, line of dialogue by line of dialogue, tried to do that in live action, everybody would see it and say, this sucks. Everybody would say, this sucks. Because we talked about this on the show the other day. Movies, shows, whatever, they are made for their medium, right? Just in the same way, if you took Shogun and tried to make it an animated series, I don't think it would work. I really don't. Not because Shogun isn't great, but Shogun was made for a particular medium in a particular way. And it's awesome the way it is. If you try to just take that and transpose it into something else, I'm not so sure it works as well. X-Men 97 is the same thing. You take X-Men 97, make it live action, shot for shot, line for line, everybody would say it sucks. But we don't judge it on that level. We judge it on the level for what it is. And for what it is, it's great. But on the same level as like WandaVision or anything like that, no. It's great. I'm loving it. I'm a big thumbs up for X-Men 97. I can't wait for the finale. But no, it is a Twitter maximum 140 character attention span, rapid fire annotated storytelling style in a very, very, very super hyper condensed package that has some really awesome stuff in it. But as good as real laid out narrative stuff, I personally disagree. But we are all on the same side that I think it's wonderful and I'm really, really enjoying it. But that's just me. All right. Next up, we've got Noodle, who writes, would you consider the hero monologue by Rosemary Harris? That's Aunt May, by the way, for those of you who don't know her from the original Tobey Maguire Spider-Man movies. The Rosemary Harris in Spider-Man 2 an Oscar-worthy nomination or win? No. The hero and woman from Barbie monologues are also my top two favorites of all time. It's really good. Love the passion in both of the speeches. I agree. The speeches are fantastic. I mean, look, you look at Barbie. I'm not saying without the woman speech by America Ferrera. I'm not saying if you took that speech out that Barbie isn't a billion-dollar film. I'm not saying that. But what I am saying is that monologue that America Ferrera has about being a woman and the challenges of being a woman is the actual beating organ heart of that movie. That's the monologue in the speech that contextualizes the entire film and the underlying message, I think, of a lot of the film. It's the emotional nerve center, if you will, of that movie. It's powerful. It's wonderful. And correct me if I'm wrong, but I think America Ferrera ended up getting a Best Supporting Actress nomination. And I would contend the only reason she got that nomination, and I love her, by the way, but the only reason she got that nomination was because of that speech, that monologue. That monologue, if I'm remembering it correctly, and she did get an Academy Award nomination for the movie, that's why she got it. And she portrayed it perfectly. I don't know that she should have gotten an Oscar nomination for that one monologue any more than I think that Aunt May, Rosemary, should have gotten a nomination for that one thing, but they are both tremendous speeches. They're both tremendous speeches. Absolutely, Noodle. All right, next up. An anonymous viewer writes, Glad WB reversed on letting the Gollum fan film stay up. They have a right to protect their IP, but confusing they'd be quick to take down a video labeled fan film, but ignore fake trailers with titles and thumbnails deliberately designed to mislead. Here's the problem. Let's not get into whataboutisms. Whataboutisms is not a valid argument point in debating an issue. Well, what about that? Well, we're not talking about that. We're not talking about fake trailers, thumbnails, blah, blah. Well, what about that? Like if you ever catch yourself in any argument debate and you find yourself sliding into whataboutisms, dig in your heels, stop, backtrack a bit, and then get back on course. That's just because whataboutisms is never a good argument point. Yeah, listen, I can totally see. Look, as somebody who spent a year making a fan film myself, all right, Rise of the Trades. It's a fan film cross of Phantom Menace and The Godfather. Won us some awards too, as a matter of fact. Even though, as I look back on it now, many years later, it's absolutely terrible. But we won some awards, got to go to some festivals, whatever. But it was a fan film, and we were allowed to make it, even though we were kind of using Star Wars IP and all that kind of stuff. And I love it when studios allow fans to use their IP to make fan content. I love it when they do that. But I also don't hold it against a studio when they move to protect their own IP. It's your IP. You have the copyright. And technically speaking, we're not allowed to make fan films. There's fair use doctrine, and that's a whole nother rabbit hole we can go down, of course. But I mean, those characters, that IP belongs to somebody else, and we can't just steal somebody's IP. It doesn't matter if that IP belongs to an individual person or a big giant Hollywood studio. We don't have the right to just steal their IP and make our own stuff out of it. And so these studios have a right to enforce their copyright and to protect their IP. So I really appreciate it, and I applaud it when studios allow us as fans to make fan content, but I don't hold it against them if they don't. Like Mr. Brown, who lives on the corner of 5th Street, right? When the ice cream truck comes by, he comes out of his house and he buys ice cream cones for all the kids gather around today. Does he have to do that? No, but it's awesome when Mr. Brown does that. Way to go, Mr. Brown. That's awesome. But if Mr. Brown chooses not to come out and buy the kids ice cream cones, do we have a right to get mad at him? No, it's his money. He can decide to buy kids ice cream cones if he wants to be nice or not. It's up to Mr. Brown. So yeah, anyway, that's how I kind of feel about it. But yeah, listen, whenever studios allow fan films and stuff like that to stay up, I think it's great. But again, I just don't hold it against them if they don't. That's all. It's just simple as that. I think it's awesome when they do, but I don't think they're obligated to allow it to happen either. So that's just kind of how I feel about it. All right, next up. We've got... Who do we got next? Wesley Cunningham writes, "Sup, John? How do you and your circle like the Maze Runners? Never gave them a chance. Marketing looked like a generic YA dystopia adaptation. But this praise he's getting for Apes, hope to catch that tonight, makes me want to give it a look." We were just talking about this earlier on the John Campea Show. You're right. It is a YA dystopian story. That's what it is. And so I never paid much attention to it because I was clearly not the target demographic, right? But I got to tell you, I really don't mind the first Maze Runner. I thought it was actually a pretty solid little film. I enjoyed it. Now, I didn't so much like parts 2 and there was a third one, right? Anyway, I didn't like the other ones so much. But part 1 I actually quite enjoyed. But again, I was not the target demographic for it. I was just really impressed that I even liked the first one, to be honest with you. But I'll tell you what, my anticipation and optimism for this live action Legend of Zelda movie has just gone up about 10 times after seeing Kingdom of the Planet of the Apes and what Wes Ball did in that. I think he just did a fantastic job with it. It's not the best of the franchise, but I thought it was really, really good. All right. Thanks for that, Wesley. Next up, Diddley Squat writes, Clarkson's Farm is on Prime Video, just like Grand Tour. 3 seasons with 1 more to be released, 8 episodes per season, 45 to 60-minute episodes. The show won the Flying the Flag for British Agriculture Award at the British Farming Awards. Well then, if it won the Flying the Flag for British Agriculture Award, what am I waiting for? I gotta rush out and watch this. Now, I'm not going to lie to you, Diddley Squad. I have no plans on watching this show. I never watched Grand Tour. I never watched... What was the other one? What was the main one called? Because Grand Tour was the name of his second show, right? What was the name of the first one? It was called Gearhead or First Gear or Shift Gear. What was the name of the big driving show? Gears something? Anyway, nobody in the live chat seems to know either. So, Top Gear. Equity Group was the first one to fire in and say Top Gear, right? I never watched Top Gear or Grand Tour in that, so it's clearly not my lane to drive in. Get it? I'm extending the car pun. So I'm probably not going to watch it myself, but I'm glad it's there if it's worth watching for people. All right. Next up. But hey, listen, like James Cameron has made 3 of the top 4 grossing films of all time, but has he won the Flying the Flag for British Agriculture Award? That's the question that they're going to ask when he retires. You don't have a complete career until you've done that, Cameron. All right, next up. Brian O'Connor writes, after watching The Tragedy of Macbeth and Drive Away Dolls, I had to personally reevaluate every film by the Coen brothers. Until proven otherwise, it's safe to say Joel Coen was the one doing the heavy lifting, directing all their classic films. Listen, Drive Away Dolls is one thing. I really like The Tragedy of Macbeth. As long as I'm thinking about we're talking about the one with Denzel, right? Let me just double check. The Tragedy of Macbeth. Yeah, the Denzel one. I really like The Tragedy of Macbeth. I thought it was really good. I mean, I remember Ann and I went to go see it. And I thought it was great. Now, I'm somebody who really appreciates Shakespeare. I did a little bit of Shakespeare when I was younger. I really, really like Shakespeare. Actually, true story. Whenever we do sound checks, and I've been doing this for like 30 years, 20 years. I've been doing this for like 20 years. Whenever we do sound checks, a lot of people go, check 1, 2, check the mic, check 1, 2. Even when I'm sitting here by myself, when I'm doing my own sound checks and stuff like that alone in my studio, my sound check is... Friends, Romans, countrymen, lend me your ears. I come to bury Caesar, not to praise him. The evil that men do lives after them, but the good is often interred with their bones, and so let it be with Caesar. I mean, I'm somebody who appreciates Shakespeare. That's all I'm saying. And I thought The Tragedy of Macbeth was really good. But anyway, that's just me. All right. Next up. We go to, that was it for the tipping questions. Thank you guys. Now listen, by the way, I want to let you guys know, I saw that some tip questions came in like in the last hour or hour and a half before we started the show. But by an hour and a half before we start the show, or 2 hours before we start the show, this document is already put together. So if you sent in a tip question, like in the last couple of hours, and it didn't get answered, hang tight. It'll probably be answered on the next open mic, just so you know, it's still there. All right, guys, listen, we're going to roll over now and go over to the live questions that you guys have been sending in via the super chat. But before we do, we're going to take a quick second and thank one of the sponsors of today's episode, my mobile service provider, and they should be yours, Mint Mobile. We want to thank a sponsor of today's video, Mint Mobile. My favorite spring cleaning takeaway is the post-clean clarity you get. Wow, how have I been living like this? It's kind of like when you find out that you've been paying a fortune for wireless when Mint Mobile has phone plans for just $15 a month when you purchase a 3-month plan. My last mobile service provider was quite good, but ever since I switched to Mint Mobile, I've enjoyed even better coverage, better phone clarity, and I'm paying less than a third of what I paid to my old provider. Say goodbye to your overpriced wireless plans, jaw-dropping monthly bills, and unexpected overages. All plans come with high-speed data and unlimited talk and text delivered on the nation's largest 5G network. Use your own phone with any Mint Mobile plan and bring your phone number along with all of your existing contacts. To get this new customer offer and your new 3-month unlimited wireless plan for just $15 a month, go to mintmobile.com/Campea. That's mintmobile.com/Campea. Cut Cut your wireless bills to $15 a month at mintmobile.com/Campea. $45 upfront payment required, equivalent to $15 a month. New customers on first 3-month plan only. Speed slower above 40 gigabytes on unlimited plan. Additional taxes, fees, and restrictions may apply. See Mint Mobile for details. Guys, we want to thank a sponsor of today's video, BetterHelp. Listen, we all carry around different stressors, big and small. When we keep them bottled up, it can start to affect us negatively. Therapy is a safe space to get things off your chest and to figure out how to work through whatever is weighing on you. I've said for a long time, it's time for us to start prioritizing mental health as much as we prioritize physical health. You know, we encourage each other when we go to the gym to take care of ourselves physically. Well, it's time we start encouraging each other to take care of ourselves mentally as well. So if you're thinking about taking that step and prioritizing your mental health, give BetterHelp a try. It's entirely online, designed to be convenient, flexible, and suited to your schedule. All you have to do is fill out a brief questionnaire to get matched with a licensed therapist and switch therapists anytime for no additional charge. So get it off your chest with BetterHelp. Visit betterhelp.com/Campea today and get 10% off your first month. That's BetterHelp, HELP.com/Campea. And thank you to our friends at Mint Mobile and BetterHelp for sponsoring today's episode. All right, guys, with that all down, let's get over to your live questions here, shall we? And we're going to start off here with, who are we starting with? I think we're starting with Miguel. Where is Miguel? There he is. Miguel, who sends in like a $28 super chat. Thank you, Miguel, for supporting us on that level, man. That's incredibly generous of you. Miguel writes, hey, John, can the character Apocalypse really work in live action? 100% he can. Like his origins are complicated, especially if you put him in the MCU. What even is his origins? I like either Bardem or Kevin Durant to play him full CGI. So the thing about Apocalypse, like the Joker and many other comic book characters, his origins have been portrayed and then changed and then reimagined and stuff like that. A lot of it back in ancient Egypt as Ensabanur, all that kind of stuff. It all depends on how you decide to adapt him, right? But Thanos shows that you can do Apocalypse, right? If you can do Thanos, you can do Apocalypse. CGI, totally. Apocalypse will be CGI. So of that, I have very, very little doubt. They'll probably do him like and under the same way they did Josh Brolin as Thanos. So that's probably the way they'll do it. And listen, he is simply my favorite villain of the X-Men universe. John, what about Magneto? See, no. Magneto's my overall favorite comic book character, period. More than Batman, more than Superman, more than Captain America. Like, my overall favorite comic book character, period, has always been Magneto. But as far as like X-Men villains, I mean, there's definitely a Mr. Sinister is up there too, but for me, it's Apocalypse. He is also the most pure embodiment of the mutant mindset if you're going to go wrong. Survival of the fittest. That's it. That's Apocalypse, man. Survival of the fittest. I mean, theoretically, if Apocalypse were to get into a fight with a mutant that is actually stronger than him, Apocalypse thinks he should die. Apocalypse would think, because he's very, very tight to that philosophy, he believes he should die if he gets into a fight with a stronger mutant, because it's survival of the fittest. Cull the weak so that the strong may flourish. He's a pretty incredible villain, and I really hope they do him better than they did in X-Men Apocalypse. Not that that was Oscar Isaac's fault. Not at all. Not in the least. That was not Oscar Isaac's fault. But I just didn't like the portrayal. I think they can do much better, and I hope they will whenever they get around to bringing us Apocalypse. All right. Next up here. That was Miguel. We got Shaz Verse writes, they can, but shouldn't. He's way too compelling, and asking about Wolverine. And I agree. They can do it without Wolverine. Sure. But should ya? Should you do it without Wolverine? And I don't think you should. I think it's a mistake if you don't. But again, like, listen, I trust Kevin Feige. Let's see what he comes up with. All right, Murray Reich writes, some great hockey playoffs, especially the Game 1 Canucks-Oilers game. That was nutty. That was nutty. I was actually texting. I want to say who, but I won't say who. I was texting with a rampant Vancouver Canucks fan. someone you would recognize their name, about that game. And like, holy crap. I was also writing back and forth with him about my lament and woes with Toronto Maple Leafs, but that was a thrilling game. The Leafs boss, come on, Game 7 overtime. It has been a really good playoffs. It's been a really, really good playoff run for all teams involved. It's been great, and I've been enjoying it thoroughly. Anyway, that down. Next up, why can't I get the screen to come on? Come on. There we go. Okay. Next up, we've got, some would call me Tim, says, really enjoyed Planet of the Apes and brought my dad, who is a big fan of the franchise. For me, it's my second favorite movie of the year behind Dune 2. I think I have to agree. I'll be honest with you, Tim. I've been so kind of concerned and wrapped up in where do I put Kingdom of the Planet of the Apes in the ranking amongst the other Planet of the Apes movies that I haven't really thought about it in terms of favorite movies of the year. But I think I agree. I think it is my second favorite movie of the year. I haven't made any kind of a definitive list. But yeah, I think I'm going to agree with you. I think it's my second favorite movie of the year so far, only behind Dune 2. That's the only one. All right. Next up, we've got Damaris Love, who writes, hey, John, the X-Men years away, as you said. I'd gather that a few seasons of 97 will give fans enough Wolverine and introduce us to characters we did not get in the Fox movies that we want in the MCU. Oh, I'm sure they will. I'm 100% sure they will get a lot of characters. But have you seen the ratings numbers? Compared to like Loki and things like that, X-Men 97 is not getting monster numbers. And that's okay. That's okay. They never thought it would. It was never intended to, right? And that's all right. I only say that to highlight that I don't think X-Men 97 is going to hold over the general audience until we get an X-Men movie. I think it'll hold over some diehards like me and you and stuff like that. But I don't know if it's going to hold over a lot because a lot of people aren't watching it. That style of show is not for everybody, and that's fine. The style of show is not for everyone, and that's okay. But I cannot wait for them to bring the X-Men to the big screen. I really can. It's going to be great. At least I hope it is. Ray from State Farms writes, whatever I said yesterday about Gollum, scratch that. If Cate Blanchett makes an appearance, I'm going to lose my mind. Love her as Galadriel. Oh, I love Cate Blanchett as Galadriel. But, oh, no. She very well could. I was thinking, but she's already gone into the West. No, I forgot Gollum. This is before the end of Return of the King. Or before even the beginning of Fellowship of the Ring. I love her as Galadriel. That scene, I still love, I mean, there's so many moments in the Lord of the Rings trilogy, but that scene when she goes pure psychedelic, instead I be a queen, and the light and the inverse color and beautiful and terrible, or whatever the line is such a good moment. But then when she's quiet and whatever, she's even somehow more powerful. I love Cate Blanchett, which is why I want to love. Why am I freezing on the name of, what's the video game movie she's got coming out with Kevin Hart? Why am I freezing on the name of it? That Eli Roth, I know the name of the director. I'm freezing on the name of the movie. The one with Eli Roth. Guys, Borderlands, thank you. Uni Shin was the first one to put that in. I want to love Borderlands. I hope Borderlands is great because I love Cate Blanchett so much. I'm not going to lie to you. I'm not loving the trailers so far. I love Eli Roth. Have a lot of appreciation for him. And obviously Cate Blanchett in the conversation of maybe one of the greatest actresses of all time. But I don't know, man. The trailers have looked a little rough to me. I hope I ended up liking it. But yeah, she's so good as Galadriel. All right. Johnny Weiner writes, I watch re-releases of Amazing Spider-Man, and I gotta say, fantastic. The actors were all great, including Rhys Ifans. Oh, Rhys Ifans is always great. As Connor/Lizard. His work in House of the Dragon and Rasputin, I don't know why he doesn't get more roles. I think, honestly, Rhys Ifans gets as many roles as he wants. I'm not saying he gets any role he wants. I think he works as much as he wants to work. But him and Patty, man, in House of the Dragon, absolutely phenomenal. And listen, I take a lot of crap for it, but I don't care. I will die on this hill. I've been saying this since it first came out. The first Amazing Spider-Man movie with Andrew Garfield is great. I think that is as good as Tobey Maguire's Spider-Man 2. No, but I think The Amazing Spider-Man is a great film. And granted, Amazing Spider-Man 2, with Electro, not as good. All right, not as good. But even then, it still had its moments. But you're right, I really liked him in that movie. I liked him in that a lot. All right, next up, Dalvin35 writes, Bale's Batman versus Phoenix's Joker would be interesting. I don't know that I agree. Because this Joker is not fighting anybody. I mean, Joker is great as really more a psychological examination, right? It's a commentary on our society and stuff like that. I don't know that Bale's Batman and Joaquin's, because there's nothing about this particular Joker that says to me fighting Batman. So I don't know if that would be a good matchup. I'm not saying it wouldn't. I'm just saying I don't know. I don't have your surety that you seem to have. I don't know that I share that surety, but you never know. Be interesting. Look, you'd be clearly getting two of the great actors of our generation on screen. That's never a bad thing. So who knows? All right. Next up, that was Dalvin. Now we've got Forever Blue, who sends in a $25 super chat. Thank you, Forever Blue. Appreciate your generosity, man. He writes, have you seen Conan's new travel show? No, but I want to. On HBO Max. If not, I recommend it. And the third episode with him visiting his fans in Bangkok, Thailand is especially funny. Conan is my favorite out there of the late night hosts. Okay, first of all, these little travel and food shows, I don't know why, but my wife and I are addicted to them. Have you ever seen Somebody Feed Phil? Just quick yes or no in the live chat. I'm looking. Any of you guys watch Somebody Feed Phil? If not, it's really addicting. It's a fun, great little travel food show. A lot of you guys are saying no, that you haven't seen it. Look it up. It's really good. It's a lot of fun. No Reservations was another one like that. All that kind of stuff. Conan is a very interesting case study. Because everybody, by the way, out of everybody in the live chat so far, everybody said no, they haven't seen Somebody Feed Phil except for YG. YG's the only one who has seen Somebody Feed Phil, which you should watch. Pretty addicting. But the Conan thing was pretty interesting because everybody loves Conan. I love Conan. I mean, he was a writer on Saturday Night Live, right? Yeah. Everybody loves Conan and Simpsons. He was a writer on Simpsons. Everybody loves Conan, right? Conan is great. But Conan kind of became a poster child for just because people think you're great doesn't mean they'll watch you. Remember when he lost his show? What was it? Which late night show was it? It wasn't the Tonight Show, was it? Yeah, it was the Tonight Show. Remember, he was the host of the Tonight Show for a while. And like Mr. I saying, like everybody else did, Conan should have remained host of the Tonight Show. Here's the problem. Nobody watched him. That was the problem. And I never understood it. But the numbers didn't lie. The ratings, when Conan, and everybody had their I'm Team Coco. I think I had one of the I'm Team Coco things too. But the ratings dropped. Hot Mom's podcast is saying not true. Yes, it is. the ratings dropped. And when the ratings drop, they're going to look to make a change. And listen, I love Conan. I adore Conan. But I never understood. Like, everybody was like, oh, we're Team Coco. Have you ever actually watched the show? Because a lot of you haven't. Because if half of you, and remember, I had a Team Coco sticker too. I'm just saying, I'm like, if half of you who are waving these I'm Team Coco flags actually watched the show, he would still be the host. But like, people didn't watch. It was really, really weird. Because he's great. So that's why I'm very excited to see this, because I'm a sucker for these types of travel and food shows, but I just love Conan O'Brien. I just think he's fantastic. So I'm really looking forward to watching it. But you know what reminds me of, like the I'm Team Coco reminds me of, is when I hear people go, Hollywood doesn't make original movies anymore. Yes, they do. They make more original films today than ever. Y'all just don't watch them. And it's like, see all these people with like Team Coco shirts. Oh, great. That's a trendy thing to do, right? To say you're Team Coco. Well, maybe if you watch the show, he'd still be host of the Tonight Show. Anyway, that was that. I just never, it was a very, very frustrating thing, because I thought he is such a great late night host. I'm not going to say he's the greatest of all time. That I think is David Letterman. David Letterman will probably say the greatest of all time is Johnny Carson, but whatever. But Coco was great. Conan was great, and I just wish more people watched it when he was hosting. Anyway, next up, we've got Richard K, who writes, I saw your list of actors that you'd like to see for the Joker in the James Gunn DC, but I would also add to the list Jackie Earle Haley. I really like Jackie Earle Haley. I don't know if I say, like, he already played Freddy, and he was already Rorschach and stuff like that. I don't know if I see him as Joker. Anyway, Nick Cage, no. Willem Dafoe, too late for that. Ethan Hawke, I like that name. Handsome Hawk. Handsome Hawk. Ethan Hawke. I like that. Because, listen, I don't know how many of you, not many of you did, because it didn't do great at the box office, but there was a great little horror film out a couple of years ago called The Black Phone. I know it was the something phone. I think it was The Black Phone. Anyway, great little horror movie. And Handsome Hawk, Ethan Hawke, was in that. And I loved him in that as a psychotic bad guy. And I would totally be down. I love that pick. Dude, I love that pick, Richard. I'd totally see that. I would totally see that. All right. Next up, we've got Bright, who writes, 2 years ago, Tim Burton dropped the greatest quote in human history. You complain about me. I'm too weird. I'm too dark. And then you put nipples on the costume. Go fuck yourself about Batman Forever. I have not seen that quote, but if indeed that is a Tim Burton quote, that's a pretty badass quote. And listen, I take some heat for this sometimes. I'm not the biggest Tim Burton fan. I'm just going to be honest. There are certainly some films of his that I really like. 100% I do. There are a couple of Tim Burton films I really, really enjoy. But I'm not as big of a Tim Burton guy as a lot of people are. That being said, I love when he's interviewed. He's got such a unique perspective on film and how to tell a narrative and stuff like that. I could honestly sit and just listen to him sit on a chair on a stage and just talk about the process of filmmaking all night. Even though I'm not a huge fan of him as a director overall, but I could listen to him talk about film all day, like absolutely all day. All right. Next up, we got Dwayne Fernandez, who writes, hey, John, do you think Galactus actually is the main villain? That's what the report is saying. Or do you think it'll be Silver Surfer and Galactus will be the force behind it, like Dormammu and Caecilius in Doctor Strange? See, that's my fear, right? Something I said on the John Campea Show earlier today is this. When you look at, what was the name of the giant poo cloud again in Green Lantern? What was the name of the big baddie, the giant space cloud thing coming in Green Lantern? Parallax. Parallax, which is, of course, it was one of the big shames, by the way, about that Green Lantern. By the way, I don't think Green Lantern is as bad as people make it out to be. It's bad. It's bad, but I don't think it's as bad as people like, well, hell, even Ryan Reynolds makes it out to be. I thought it had its upside, but the real unfortunate thing about the Parallax thing is in the comic books, Parallax and the story of Parallax is so cool, at least the initial story of Parallax, where Green Lantern just finally, he breaks and he starts to go bad and he starts acquiring other Green Lantern's rings. He starts wiping out other lanterns to get their rings and to get the lantern and to become so powerful that he wants, I mean, it's a harp. And at the end of the day, his best friend, Green Arrow, is the one that takes him down. It's a powerful, wonderful, wonderful story. And they turn Parallax into the stupid thing. But anyway, if you look at Parallax or Galactus in that other Fantastic Four movie, or if you look at something like even the Celestials in Eternals, although I love Arishem and all that kind of stuff, but these entities are not really characters in their movies. They're consequences. They're consequences. Parallax in the Green Lantern movie was not a character. It was this consequence that was coming. Unicron in the most recent Transformers Rise of the Beast movie wasn't really a character in the movie. He was more a consequence that was coming. He was a result. And the reason I wonder if Galactus is even truly going to be a character in the movie, or again, just another consequence that the Fantastic Four, like the Fantastic Four can't fight Galactus, but they can fight his coming, right? They're trying to stop the consequence. I'm wondering if he will actually be a character in the movie or just another force of nature consequence that they're trying to avert. So yeah, we'll see. We'll see. I hope they can find a way to make him a true character in the movie. I think that would be great, Dwayne. Anyway. All right, next up. Bright writes, do you think the fact that Corn Sweat is 6'6" will affect casting for Batman or DCU villains? No. They can do camera tricks, but to save trouble down the line. No, it's not important. I really don't think it's important. Like, I don't think you go out and get Michael Keaton to play Batman again. But, you know, I'll say, just let me look this up. How tall is Michael Keaton? Hold on a second. Let me just ask this. Hey, Siri, how tall is Michael Keaton? I hope I didn't just trigger all your guys' phones. Yeah, he's 5'8", it says. Okay. So I don't think you go and get somebody tall, but you don't have to get somebody who is the same height as Superman. Because Superman's Superman. Well, John, you see, in this, it doesn't matter what previous iterations were. You don't have to have him be the same height. I mean, it would be kind of cool if you did, but I don't think they're going to. And by the way, is David actually 6'6"? Because I've met him and he is taller than me, but is he 6'6"? Really? Guys in the live chat, fact check that for me. At any rate, so is he actually 6'6"? Anyway, but I don't think it's necessarily important. I don't think it's important that they're the same thing. Guys saying he's 6'4". That sounds more right, which is still very tall. It's still very tall. But yeah, so thank you everybody in the live chat. Putting the Banjan, Patrick, Mr. I, Dominic Ray, everybody's lighting 6'4". So I don't think you have to get a Batman who's that same height. So no, I don't think it's going to influence or have really a role. I mean, look, let's put it this way. It's an if everything else is equal kind of situation. Like if you come down to two actors for Batman and they're absolutely dead even, like you're getting ready just to flip a coin as to should we take actor A or actor B to be our new Batman. And like, it's totally dead even. Like you just can't make up your mind. Then maybe you go with who's the taller guy, who's closer to the height of David Cornsweat. Maybe, but other than that, I really don't think it's going to be I don't think it's going to be a big factor. I really don't. All right. Thanks for writing that in, Bright. Next up, Moda Awesome writes, honestly, hearing Ralph Ineson speak gave me chills. He's got an awesome voice, man. Awesome voice. I think he's going to kill it as Galactus, even if he's just a voice role of a CGI character. I completely agree. And again, it's one of those situations where I would not have thought of him. By the way, guys, if you guys have not seen The Witch by Roger Eggers, such a good movie. Such a good movie. I think Anya Taylor-Joy is in that. Yeah, Anya Taylor-Joy is the lead of that. I keep forgetting about that, but it's such a good movie. He's fantastic. An incredible, incredible, incredible voice. He is, again, I wouldn't have thought of him. I wouldn't have thought of him for this role. But as soon as I read his name, I'm like, yes, they totally nailed that casting. It's going to be great. Whether he's mo-capped or whether he's just CGI and doing the voice, whatever, he's going to be great. All right, next up. Casinema writes, after seeing Kingdom of the Planet of the Apes, does anyone else want to see an open world Planet of the Apes video game? That could be interesting, actually. And I would think you wouldn't even be human. I think you'd be, I mean, no, if it's an open world game, you could probably choose, you want to be a human, do you want to be an ape? That could be a very cool open world game, actually. You build and develop your clan. You can go explore the world. Maybe your clan merges with other clans and you start to grow and grow and grow and become a kingdom. Maybe Proximus comes along and becomes your king. Oh boy, Proximus was so good in that movie, man. I know a lot of you, it's just open. I know a lot of you haven't had a chance to see Kingdom of the Planet of the Apes yet, but Proximus is a really good villain. But he doesn't show up until like more than halfway through the movie, which is weird. But once he comes on screen, man, he is powerful. He's a really, really good screen presence. All right. Next up, J.A. Dub writes, I want a Gem movie in the 1980s with Saoirse Ronan as Jerrica and Samara Weaving as Gem with Greta Gerwig directing. It's a better show than one would think. Which one was Gem? Like, I'm assuming you're not talking about Gem and the Holograms. I assume we're not talking about Gem and the Holograms. I can't remember what Gem is. And you guys in the live chat know what we're referring to as Gem? I'm not sure. I can't think of it off the top of my head. I'll keep my eye on the live chat, see if any of you guys know what that is. But listen, Saoirse Ronan is a remarkable world-class actress. I lost track of how many accolades she's already got. She's remarkable, and I love Samara Weaving, also known as the clone of Margot Robbie. But if people saying they're talking about Gem and the Holograms. Yeah, no, I have no interest in Gem and the Holograms. I really don't. All right. Thanks, J.A. Next up, Crazy Description writes, hey, John, so they just confirmed that a Godzilla x Kong sequel is in the works, this time with the Shang-Chi writer. I heard about that. We'll probably talk about it more on the John Campea Show on Monday. But, I mean, that's exciting. Listen, the director already confirmed that he was already at work kind of trying to pull together the ideas for the next one. This movie made over, I mean, I think the most recent one made over 500. Did it make over 600? Hold on a second. Godzilla x Kong box office. I think right now they're saying it's at 555 million. So it didn't get to 600, but yeah, it's at $550 million right now. So another big success for them. Congrats to them. And they're going to make another one. So, but them getting the writer for Shang-Chi, I think that's pretty cool. All right. Next up, we've got Alex Von Gollum who writes, hey, Gio, I like the Apes movie a lot, yet it has 2 convenient story elements and 1 plot hole. I can't think of them off the top of my head. Loved how entrancing and cool the lore building was. Entrancing and cool the lore building was. Listen, I don't like to get into politics on the show, and I really don't like to get into religion on the show. But it is nonetheless completely entwined with one of the reasons I love Kingdom of the Planet of the Apes. There's an issue it addresses thematically. I won't go into story details for those who haven't seen it, but it has a very powerful theme in it that is one that's quite relevant and important to me. which is, the movie starts, like, it's just the first 30 seconds of the movie. It just shows that the thing on the screen, there was an ape who died for his kind, and his name was Caesar, right? And then they show a quick glimpse of Caesar's funeral. And then the screen goes black, and then it goes many generations later, and then the movie actually starts. So the primacy and the importance of Caesar from the last three movies is even now, many generations, I'm going to guess 300 or 400 years later, maybe it's 200 years, whatever, down the road, it's still very important. But here's the thing. We meet a character named Raka, the orangutan you see in the trailers. And Raka is the last remaining member of something called the Order of Caesar. And I'm not going to tell you anything he does or says in the movie. I'm just saying that's what the character is. And you've seen him in the trailer. And like he believes in the true teachings of Caesar. Apes together strong. Ape should not kill ape. Just basic rules like that. Humans were important to Caesar. These sorts of things. Now, Raka becomes juxtaposed against Proximus, the villain of the film, who you've seen in the trailers, and you've seen a number of these lines in the trailers, but Proximus is a representation of the bastardization of that faith. Raka is a character who has faith in Caesar and Caesar's teachings, whereas Proximus is the representation of the mutilation and bastardization of that faith, and basically turns that pure faith that, say, Raka has into a oppressive religion, and then twists and distorts the true meaning of what that pure, beautiful faith is, and twists and distorts and mutilates it into something that they can use for political power. And that is a very close to home thing about what we have in our world today. It's a very close thing to what we have in our world today. And so for somebody like me, who that's a very important issue, I don't talk about it on my show at all. Like, hardly ever even touch on it. But for me personally, that's like a very important issue. And as I'm watching this movie and seeing like Wes Ball have the guts to actually touch on it, it was very meaningful for me personally. And that might be part of the reason why I appreciate the movie so much. It's probably part of the reason why I appreciate the movie so much, because it does that, and it goes there, and it addresses it. And it's a really beautiful, modern parable, if you will, of the difference between actual Christian faith and the evil, disgusting, distorted version of it that some people pass it off to be today. And that's just something that's really, really big to me. So anyway, that's my thing. And maybe that won't be as interesting to a lot of you guys. Maybe it won't be as interesting to a lot of you guys as it is to me. I won't know. You guys will have to tell me. But for me, I was just really taken in by it. I really enjoyed it. I thought it was a wonderful film. Enjoyed it a lot. Again, I still think Dawn is the best one of this Caesar franchise, this Caesar saga, if you will. But I really enjoyed it. I thought it was great. All right. Sorry I went off on a tangent there, guys. I apologize. All right. Next up. We've got J.A. Dub who writes, sorry about your Leafs. Yeah. Odds my Stars win the cup. Not great, because their path to the cup. Look, right now, your Dallas Stars are 1-1 with the Colorado Avalanche. I think they're going to have a very hard time getting by the Avalanche. I think the Avalanche win that series. But even if they don't, they then got to go on and play the winner of Vancouver, Edmonton. And I don't see Dallas beating either Vancouver or Edmonton. So like step one, they got to get by the Avalanche. I don't know that they're getting by the Avalanche. Then step 2, even if they do get by the Avalanche, they got to get by the winner of Vancouver and Edmonton. And I don't know that they get by either of those. And then they'll go on to face whoever it is in the Stanley Cup. So, hey, listen, all I know is that your Dallas Stars have already gone a lot farther than my Toronto Maple Leafs have, right? So enjoy it, dude. Enjoy it. All right. Next up. We've got Alex Von Gollum who writes, I'm so excited about the Hunt for Gollum movie. Imagining Howard Shore's score, mixing classic Lord of the Rings songs makes me geek out, such as the Rohirrim theme. Bum, 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 bum. Bum, 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 bum. Oh, I love the music in Lord of the Rings. I mean, what is there not to like about Lord of the Rings but the music in Lord of the Rings? Oh, God, it's so good. So good. And yeah, listen, there's a lot of reasons why I'm getting excited for, War of the Rohirrim. I'm excited. Like, look, I said this before the other day. Am I super stoked that the next Lord of the Rings live action movie is The Hunt for Gollum? No, I'm not stoked that they're doing a prequel story. I'm not. That doesn't mean it can't be awesome. And I'm excited about everything else about it. The original screenplay writers of the original Lord of the Rings trilogy are writing the screenplay for this. Peter Jackson is an overseeing producer on it. Not just a producer in name, like a lot of producers are. He's actually an overseeing producer on this. And you got Andy Serkis directing it. So there's a lot of things I'm excited about. Do I wish it was something that took place after the events of Return of the King? Yes, I would have preferred if it was doing that. Not stoked that it's The Hunt for Gollum. But there's just too many other reasons to be excited about, so I'm pretty stoked about it. And getting to hear the music again is one of them. All right. Next up, Zachary Schaster writes, Hey John, how often do you usually rewatch movies? With so many classics, I haven't seen a lot of the new films always coming out, and I found that I don't even rewatch things as much as I would like. I rewatch movies a bunch, but okay, so I mostly rewatch movies in their window, right? So I'm talking about like the year it comes out. So if I like a movie, I'll go see it again in theater multiple times. And then when it comes out on home video, in whatever format of home video, there are very few things as a movie fan that I love as much as watching a movie I love with people who haven't seen it yet. Watching a movie I love with other people who haven't seen it yet. I absolutely love that. And so, but now then after the first year or two, there's not a ton of movies I go back and watch, but there's a lot of them that like once every 1, 2, 3 years, I'll go back and watch, right? Like obviously Star Wars movies, Lord of the Rings movies, Godfather, Bridge on the River Kwai, Lawrence of Arabia, Pixar films, MCU films, here and there, like, so Man of Steel, obviously. So there's a lot I continue to watch like every 1, 2, or 3 years. But I mostly rewatch movies multiple times, probably in the first year that it comes out and comes into being, because it's just one of my favorite things to do when it's with other people who haven't seen that movie yet. I get a big kick out of that. All right, thanks for that, Zachary. Next up, Michael Robert Maximilian writes, with the new mandate from Iger about 2 to 3 movies and 2 shows, do you think things like X-Men 97 are exempt? Because I could see that being a yearly show. No, I don't think it's exempt. I think that's absolutely part of the mandate. They're going to get 2 shows a year they get to do. Because when you looked at 2022, I think it was 2022, that had 9 MCU things come out, right? When Iger was talking about having 9 things come out, he included in that things like the Groot, the little Groot show. And they included the limited things like the Guardians of the Galaxy Holiday Special, Werewolf by Night. Those were included. So when he says 2 shows a year, I think he means 2 shows a year. Now, here's an argument against that, though. The argument against X-Men 97 being a part of that limitation of just 2 a year is that X-Men 97 is a part of Marvel Animation. Right? So Marvel Animation can work on its projects and not dilute or overstretch the MCU as a whole as they're trying to make their live action stuff, that you just got this totally separate division. You've got Marvel Animation over here. So I believe that X-Men 97 is going to be a part of that 2 shows a year limitation. But there could be hope that it's not a part of that limitation because it's, Marvel Animation. That's also going to be making the what if stuff, right? And that's Spider-Man, the high school Spider-Man thing. What is it? Spider-Man senior year? Is that the name of it? Anyway, so maybe it won't be a part of the maybe it'll be exempt from that limitation. But my thought is that it will be a part of the limitation. We'll find out though. All right. Next we've got Alex Von Gallmer writes, I haven't seen the Lord of the Rings movies in theaters since their release. I'm so dying to do so, hoping Cineplex schedules them soon. The event gives me chills. Yeah, I remember right around the pandemic, when the pandemic was ending, they were put everywhere. They were putting Lord of the Rings films back in theaters. A lot of people got to see them for the first time on the big screen in theaters, which is amazing. And listen, I've got a 150-inch screen, short throw laser projector that I can watch at home. I got an 85-inch TV in my living room with a Sonos surround system. Garbage. All garbage compared to actually watching it in a movie theater. That is the best place to see these movies. So I love watching them at home. I do, but I'm with you, man. Watching them in a theater is an experience that you just cannot replicate at home. You just can't. It's garbage. Absolute garbage compared to a real movie theater experience with that. So yeah. And I'm sure they're going to every year. You'll probably find theaters that are re-releasing them. Go see them when they do. All right. Thanks for that, Alex. Next up, Joyous Romer writes, hey John, may the force be with you. Thank you. Any new Star Wars tea? No. Well, except this. We are going to get news drop within the week. I'm not going to say who, I'm not going to say what, but within the next week, we are going to get news drop of some casting for the upcoming Mandalorian movie. So, that's all I'll say, is that within the next week, you're going to get a little drop about who's going to be in, about a casting for the Mandalorian movie. So I'm going to say, keep your eyes open. All right. Next up, Matthew Brown writes, Wolverine is the X-Men. Yeah, it can be done without him, but it's going to leave a big hole no one can ignore. That's what he means to the franchise. I don't disagree. It's here's what it's like. Trying to do an X-Men movie without the Wolverine is like trying to do an NSYNC reunion tour without Justin Timberlake. You can do it. You can. And there will be people that will go out to see it, but you're doing it without your most popular piece. And getting butts in the seats is a lot about popularity. And so, yeah, I mean, Wolverine is Justin Timberlake, John Campea. Yeah, that's what I mean. But I mean, you see what I'm saying though, right? You see what I'm saying? It's just, it's tricky. You're just not going to get as many people going to it if you don't have Wolverine in it. So yeah, it just, can you do it? Yes, you can. But I don't think it's wise to do it. And I don't think they will do it. I mean, it's just, I'm trying to think of another good comic book example. I'm not going to say it's like doing a Spider-Man movie without Spider-Man because it's called Spider-Man. But I mean, what would be another team up, a popular team up thing that, you know what it's like? Trying to do a Justice League movie without Batman. That's the best comparison I think I can have. It's trying to do a Justice League movie without Batman. You can do it. And you can make an argument that they rely too much on Batman and maybe they should move away from Batman. You can do all of that. But if you want people to buy tickets and come to the theater in the types of numbers that you want them to, you better have Batman in your Justice League. You're just hurting yourself if you're not. So, but again, who knows? Who knows? We'll see what they do, Matthew. All right. Next up, Jared Oberfeld writes, going to miss a week of shows because I will be on board the Disney Wish heading to the Bahamas. Dude, don't laugh. I've only been on 2 cruises in my life. One was great. One was crappy. But that was years ago. Ann and I have been talking a little bit about maybe doing a cruise again and brought up Disney cruise. They sure look good in the commercials. They sure look good. I mean, I'm kind of in a fuck Disney period of my life right now, but I mean, I got to admit, the cruises do look good. We got, Disney cruise is awesome. I've heard good things about it. The commercials look great. I'm down. Yeah, I think, maybe what I should do is what a lot of people, a lot of organizations, whatever they do, like cruises, like you can go on I see like the World Poker Tour will do like a WPT, a World Poker Tour cruise, where if you're a big fan of poker and you follow a lot of WPT, that you can go on this cruise and they're going to have some big WPT personalities and stuff like that, right? Maybe we should do a John Campea Show cruise where we like book a cruise liner. And then if you want to come and join the cruise and meet all the people in the John Campea Show and hang out, do a daily show from the boat. That's what we should do. That's what we should do. John Campea cruise. Me and the 5 people who would buy tickets to it. That's right. Maybe it's less the John Campea Show cruise and we'll call it the John Campea Show boat. It'll be a little boat. It's just me rowing the boat. So what do you guys want to talk about? Want to talk about X-Men? As I'm rowing the boat with me and the 5 people who bought tickets. That'll be a big hit. Big hit with everybody. Let's see. Okay. Next up, we've got, where are we at? We're at Bobby Jackson, who writes, super happy for all the projects Paul Walter Hauser is involved in. While he's not a good Canadian kid, he is a good schmodown competitor. That's right. And in the Karate Kid. Dude, the week this guy has had is insane. I think it is all within the last 7 days. It has been announced that he landed the lead in the Chris Farley biopic. He's going to co-star with Liam Neeson in The Naked Gun. He's joined Fantastic Four, and now he's the lead guy in this new game show movie that's coming out with Walton Goggins. Like, it's 4 major projects announced in 1 week. Listen, I'm not saying it's never happened. I'm just saying I can't remember ever hearing that happen with an actor. Like 4 major projects in major roles. Like, because none of these are the 7th listed credited guy sort of thing. Major characters in major movies, 4 of them in the last week. It's kind of crazy. It's really crazy. Good for him, though. I'm super happy for him. All right. Parshi Parsh. And this is our final question of the day, guys. Writes, John, do you think new Avengers movies will make $2 billion? No. What if Hugh Jackman, Toby, Robert Downey return for the last 2 Avengers movies? Okay. Well, okay. Let's reel it back a little bit. As things stand right now, do I think the new Avengers movies will be $2 billion films? No, I don't. That being said, if they did Avengers, where you have Andrew Garfield, Tobey Maguire, Robert Downey Jr., Chris Evans, Hugh Jackman, Patrick Stewart, Chris Hemsworth, like, you start doing all that, well, then we're going to have a conversation. Then we are going to have a conversation. Because maybe that movie makes $2 billion. Of course, then it all depends on if the movie's any good or not. I mean, clearly it'll have a big opening weekend, but it's going to have to be really, really good in order for it to have the legs to get to $1 billion, let alone $2 billion. But let's say they make an awesome Avengers movie. Okay. Just for the sake of discussion, let's say they make an awesome Avengers movie and it's got a returning Scarlett Johansson, a returning Robert Downey Jr., a returning Andrew Garfield and Tobey Maguire, a returning Hugh Jackman and Patrick Stewart, a returning Chris Evans, and like all that. If the movie's awesome too, on top of that, yeah, I think then 2 billion becomes a conversation. I think then because yeah, I mean, look what happened with Spider-Man No Way Home, right? So yes, at that point, it becomes a conversation. It really does. Now, I don't think they're going to do that, but if they do, and I wouldn't put anything past Kevin Feige at this point, but yeah, Avatar might be in trouble at that point. Somebody just said that in live. EJ Tan saying bye-bye Avatar. Maybe. Again, it would also have to mean the movie would have to be great. Let's not forget that. That's a very, very important piece of this puzzle. The movie would have to not just have all those people in it. It would have to be great. But it becomes part of the conversation. All right, guys. And that'll do it for today's episode of Open Mic. Thank you so much for being here and joining me today, guys. I hope you all have a magnificent weekend ahead of yourselves. I might be doing a video or two this weekend. I'll keep you guys informed what's going on. Anyway, thanks so much for joining me. Big special thank you to all you guys who sent in questions. Number one, because you give us great fun things to talk about. Number two, you support our channel every time that you do it. So all of us involved with the John Campea Show podcast and YouTube channel, thank you guys so very much for your support. That'll do it for me for now, guys. Thanks a lot for being here. My name's John Campea. Gonna go watch some basketball and some hockey right now. And until next time, my friends, bye-bye.